Hey everybody, it's April Perry and Jonathan Bailor back with another episode of the SANE Show. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, what's going on, April? How are you doing today?
You know what? I've had a little bit of a crazy morning, so I'm so excited to talk about how to save time in the kitchen. I need to give you like a quick overview of what happened to me this morning because honestly, like I couldn't make this up if I tried. So we had two boys who got home from like a father-son weekend, got in really late last night, like midnight. So I was trying to get them up early, get them ready for school. But one of my sons needed a bunch of papers signed, and he has a flour sack baby for home economics that he had to return today, but the legs were falling off. So we had to get like a hammer and nails and like hammer the legs back onto the flour baby while I'm trying to make lunches for all the kids, help my daughters take me to take our car in to get work done. So Aaliyah had to follow me over to hurry her back to school. It was like we were just spinning in circles. So funny. And I just thought, like, I haven't even had breakfast yet because seriously, I have been going nonstop for the past 3 hours. And it was just like, it was crazy. It was because everything needed to happen and I was tired. So I didn't get up early to eat. So I want to know how to save time in the kitchen. I've actually been brainstorming a few ideas that I know that I could put into place, but I would love to hear from you. So do you want to start out here?
Absolutely. And here's the funny thing about how my brain works. The thing that I took away from the story you just told me is, look, we found a useful way to use wheat flour. You should just make it into flour. Don't put it in your body. Use it exclusively for flour babies.
Do you know the teachers had to email every parent and say, your child earns 100 points for getting the flour baby home safe because otherwise the kids just destroy them all over the neighborhood. So all these home economics teenagers are just throwing flour all over. I know, isn't that funny? They made a flour sack baby. Yeah, had to carry it around and take care of it. It was pretty funny. So good use for wheat flour. I agree.
What you said, April, here, that in terms of having just chaos and needing to be able to have food ready. I mean, I think that is like, we could make this show 3 minutes long and like end right now with the premise is you have to have food ready before you need it, period. Right? You can't be like, we need food. Figure it out now. We've got to figure out when we need food. It's almost like with money, right? If you want to have money saved up so that when you need it, you got it, you almost need the same thing with food. We've got to prep food beforehand so we have it when we need it.
Yeah, I mean, I grabbed some sugar snap peas because they were just ready and washed and ready in the fridge. So I grabbed some of that. But then I just thought, well, I'm not super hungry. I can wait and eat once we're done recording. But the easier things to grab would have been like a granola bar or, something else random that's just quick and easy and sitting in the pantry. But I didn't want to eat that. So I didn't. And I'm actually fine. I don't need to eat right this second. But you're right. If I don't have it planned, then that, microwavable chicken pot pie looks really good because you're just thinking, well, it's quick and it's food and I just need to satisfy my hunger.
And I think for a lot of people, breakfast is the hardest. People can wrap their heads around, I eat leftovers for lunch, I eat leftovers for dinner, I cook in bulk, but breakfast is without question. It's, the Carnation instant breakfast, it's the toaster pastries, it's the grab a bar and go. So I think it makes a lot of sense for us to focus on how do we cook in bulk? How do we pre-prep stuff for breakfast specifically? Just like, let me give you one not silly example, but one example that's just new for me. I'm learning new stuff every day. So my wife and I recently took a cruise to celebrate 10 years together. Yay. And it was just a fantastic experience. And one thing we discovered on the cruise was frittatas. And I know we certainly have a lot of recipes for frittatas in the SANE program, but I personally have never made a frittata or eaten a frittata. And SANE frittatas are just egg dishes with a lot of yummy stuff in it with no crust. So we just focus on the healthy, non-starchy vegetables within some wonderful protein and whole food fat with the eggs. And you know what is super easy to cook in bulk? Frittatas. You take a tremendous amount of eggs. You go buy a 60 pack of eggs from Costco. Just take all those eggs, crack them all up. You can make it a fun family event. Let's all crack a bunch of eggs, put it in a big old bowl. And here's just that people are like, well, what do I add? And it can be complicated. Look, here's a simple thing we do. Take a bunch of eggs, crack them, put them in a dish. Then we take a bag of frozen stir-fry vegetables from Costco. Pour that in, add some seasoning, put it in baking dishes, bake them, freeze them, pre-portion, cut them up. You've got ready to go frittata anytime you want it.
I love that. What kind of baking dishes do you use? Because that's the kind of stuff I need to do is like buy bowls and containers, and we'll talk about this a little more. But what?
Just Pyrex baking dishes, so the glass baking dishes. You could use thinner baking dishes if you wanted more of a crispy frittata, or you could have thicker ones if you want
I love that.
the thicker one. But yeah, it's even like with eggs, most people, myself included, would never think, how do we pre-prep eggs? That doesn't make any sense. But you can, and you can absolutely have them little pre-portioned out in little Tupperware containers, just like you would for anything else, and you can pre-blend your smoothies.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
I love that. Okay, a question though about egg whites, because I was at like Sam's Club the other day, and they have the big 60 thing of eggs, which I did buy, but they also had egg whites in the little cartons. Are those okay?
They're a wonderful source of nutrient-dense protein. So remember, we have to take sane eating is like paint by numbers. So you're like, where do I get my non-starchy vegetables? Where do I get my nutrient-dense protein? And where do I get my whole food fats? An egg is a whole food fat. So hypothetically, if you were looking to eat a complete sane breakfast, which is a good idea, you'd eat non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, and whole food fats. So if all you did was took eggs and vegetables and mixed them together, you might not get enough protein.
Okay.
So what you might do in that context is either one, add some meat or seafood to the frittata or egg dish, or you would use a blend of whole eggs. So what you might do, this is what we do, because I don't add additional meat or seafood to my frittata. I could, though. Actually, crumbling up some salmon would be delicious in the frittata. Is we take a bunch of eggs, and then we take a carton or two of egg whites.
Oh, okay.
And we mix them together just so that a serving of frittata will give us about 30 grams of protein, as well as vegetables, as well as whole food fats.
Okay. So I guess my question was like, if I make the egg whites myself by separating, is that the same as buying a carton? Like they don't add anything to the carton of egg whites?
Usually the carton is going to be pasteurized. And the reason that matters is because here's a really important distinction. One of the other things that I do for breakfast to pre-prep is I have a little bit of a SANE granola that you can even blend into smoothies. And the protein that I add to that personally is pasteurized egg whites, because you don't want to put raw egg whites into a smoothie. You want to cook actual egg whites, but the kinds you buy in containers are pasteurized, so they're safe to eat raw.
Okay. No, that's super helpful, because it takes me a lot of time to separate eggs. That's like something that, takes a few minutes a day. And I realize anything that even takes 1 minute a day, that's several hours a year. So if you can cut down a couple minutes, that's a big deal. Okay. So I love the idea of mixing egg whites with whole eggs. And this frittata idea, I think my family might even get on board with that. So we're going to try it. You know how that goes.
It's very delicious, and it's very easy to customize. I think just like with an omelet, like how many different kinds of omelets can you make?
Yeah.
What do you have in your fridge? I like let's keep it simple. Let's say, what vegetables do I have right now? Cut up some asparagus, put some spinach in there, put some mushrooms in there. Do you have some leftover chicken from last night? Cube that up. Mix it up. I mean, there's really there's no limit. I know this sounds a little bit silly. I'll give another example is we talk a lot about drinking green tea. And green tea applies to breakfast because a lot of people like to have a little bit of caffeine in the morning. So it's green tea or coffee. And we talk about drinking a significant amount of green tea to get the benefit. So 8 to 10 bags of green tea per day. And people say, oh my goodness, how do I drink 8 to 10 glasses of green tea? That's so much liquid. Well, who's to say that you have to put only 1 bag of green tea in an 8-ounce cup of liquid?
Oh, okay.
Couldn't you put 6 bags of green tea? And the point with that is I would encourage us to, what we've been taught about eating and exercise clearly hasn't worked, period. So like literally everything is up for questioning. All assumptions can be questioned. So like putting 1 bag of green tea in 8 ounces of water, that is an assumption. Who says we can't put 4 bags of green tea in 8 ounces of water? Who says we can't cut up chicken or salmon and mix it with our eggs? Like, these are things we can do. And just because we haven't done it in the past doesn't mean we can't do it in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's been so great for me with SANE is I never thought about eating celery for breakfast or tomatoes I would just think, well, oatmeal and maybe some fruit. You just don't think about eating vegetables. But SANE helped me realize, wait, this is actually a different way of thinking. And one thing I do need to say, so our family took our dream trip to Israel last month. And the first day we got there, we stayed at this little hostel and they said, oh, we have breakfast in the morning. And I said, oh, well, what do you have for breakfast? And they said, oh, we just have like eggs and salad. I was like, what? You have eggs and salad for breakfast? So we get there the next morning and they have this awesome dish called shakshuka. And it's almost like hard-boiled eggs cooked inside a lot of tomatoes and lots of different vegetables that are in there. And it's amazing. I loved it. And then they had chopped up bell peppers and chopped up cucumbers. And my whole family was laughing at me. They're like, Mom, this is your dream, right? Like SANE breakfast in Israel. And I was so excited because in that culture, it was very normal to have salads, and they had tuna and cottage cheese and hummus, and it was just a whole different scenario than what you would see in the States if you go to a breakfast buffet at a hotel, which is most likely muffins and oatmeal and pancakes and waffles and stuff like that. So I was pretty excited, and I think that it's exciting to think, wow, you really can just change the rules, because what we've learned culturally really isn't how it needs to be.
And especially in America, it's if you don't choose and if you don't question these assumptions, this is like the reason we think of breakfast cereal as breakfast food is because there's a $1 billion marketing ad campaign to make us think that, right? It's not because like grandma's grandma ate Lucky Charms. That's not the case. So it's not even that this is what worked in the past. It's purely just like the idea, the concept of a breakfast food is an invented concept.
Yeah.
Like this is a breakfast food. And honestly, April, I think that is really, really, really important, because a lot, when we look at health and fitness and it seems complicated, sometimes it seems complicated because there are artificial constraints. Let me give you an example. If we think we can only eat breakfast foods for breakfast, that makes breakfast harder.
Yeah.
But like, we don't have to think that. We can free ourselves from that instantly if we choose to.
Totally. Well, and then Eric and I, we did like a business meeting with another, some friends who run our business together. And we were buying breakfast to eat. And I bought a big bag of broccoli and salmon to have every morning for breakfast. And, my friend's husband was like, "Are you seriously eating salmon every morning for breakfast?" I'm like, "Well, sure. Why not? I think it's great." And it was delicious. I love waking up and having salmon each morning, because I don't know, I just sounded really good. But I think that that's what's so exciting, is to think you can change the rules and find things that you do enjoy, but that are quick. But I do have a kind of a logistic question for you. We're about to move, our family's be moving into a new home, and I am going to have a second refrigerator that I can put extra SANE food. I told my family, like, I want a fridge just for me. Not just for me, but like for the SANE food preparation, because it's been too hard to try to cram all my stuff into the fridge. But I'm having a hard time with containers. I think that's my biggest stress, because if, like, for example, I went to a conference and I prepped like 6 cans of tuna with some Greek yogurt and dill and chopped vegetables, and I made these tuna containers, and it was great. I loved having these containers. But I feel like for me to spend a lot of time on a Saturday and bulk prepare a lot of food, I just feel like I need so many containers. And the whole logistics of where you store them, how you wash them, where you prep them, moving them around, it feels like almost as much work as just making the meal every day myself. And so I just haven't been bulk preparing. I've just been doing it as I go because of my container problems. So I would love to hear what your suggestions are, especially as you think about adding onto a family, not just, 1 or 2 people.
2 things that have been very, very helpful for us. And while we only have 2 people in our house, I would argue that we eat as much food as a normal family of 5. So
I've seen you guys eat, and I would agree. You guys are awesome.
And this is not like, I'm not associated with this brand. It's just, and it's what they sell at Costco, and it's been very effective for me. There's a brand of things called Snapware.
Okay.
And it's very cost effective. You can get like a 20-piece set at Costco for $15. And I mean, it breaks down over time. It's fine. But the reason it's very useful is they're all the same size. So you can, all the lids are interchangeable. You can stack them, you can nest them. So, I mean, I bet, and the lids have a rubber seal on them. So there's a decent seal taking place there. Yeah, which is really important. And for me, at least, being able to have we used to not have these. So we used to have, 18 different pieces of Tupperware-like things, all of which only had one lid that works with
them. And then they're falling all over the pantry.
Yeah. Whereas if you have, think of it like those Russian nesting dolls. Yeah. If you can just nest containers within each other, so you've got like a big 32-ounce container and you nest those, then you nest 16-ounce containers on top of them, and you nest these things, you can really take up very, very little space, but you need to have a consistent sizing for your Tupperware-like containers. So we use a brand called Snapware, and we've just bought 3 sets of them from Costco, and 3 sets of them in total is less than $50.
Okay. And then as far as washing them, do you hand wash? Do you put them in the dishwasher?
Dishwasher.
Dishwasher. Okay. I feel like seriously, that's been my main stress. I'd be like, oh, okay, but tell me smoothies too, because any smoothie containers I have totally turn green and are really hard to clean. What do you do about that?
I used to use, so we also use, we reduce, reuse, and recycle. So we do use old Greek yogurt containers as well as old cottage cheese containers, because those are all the same size. You can.
I just feel like they're so hard to clean. Are yours not hard to clean? Maybe I'm not blending my spinach enough.
No, well, so we used to use, we've also now started using mason jars when we're not traveling, because storing things in glass is useful. Mason jars, I got mine from Walmart.com. You can get a pack of 12 for like literally $10, and they're shipped to you for free. Walmart.com is a crazy, they're trying to compete with Amazon, and they're doing ridiculous stuff. So it's a really good thing. I think maybe our definition of what is clean might be different. There is a little bit of film that builds up over time. However, so I would probably not use these to serve drinks to guests. However, I don't hand wash anything ever unless guests are coming over, and the dishwasher does a fine job.
Okay. No, I think that makes sense. And I like the mason jar idea. Actually, my friend Chris, who you met when you guys came to visit, he said he uses these mason jars and bulk prepares his smoothies and just does a great job. I think he takes like 2 a day or something to work, these big mason jars. It's awesome. Like I want to be able to do more with that and help my kids. I think my kids can be more helpful. I've been actually looking into a lot of different smoothie opportunities because I have a friend, super cute. She's like, she makes a bunch in advance and she'll have smoothies prepared. And then she just has a rule for her family. You just need to drink a smoothie 1 time a day. You can do it for breakfast, you can do it at lunch, you can do it at dinner, but this is what you need to start drinking. And her teenagers now actually want them and are going and asking for them. So that's what I need to get to. We're not quite there, but that's what I want to get to. So,
And one also thing that's helped me, April, that we've never talked about on this show is I have a list of chores, a lot of which involve food preparation, that I just have in my kitchen. And why do I have them in my kitchen? I also, I purchased a noise canceling headset for my phone. And literally anytime I'm talking on the phone, I am preparing food in my kitchen.
Really? Okay.
Because it's just a habit for me, and it's fine. And sometimes people will joke that they can hear me chopping in the background, but there's I would encourage us to, people say multitasking is a myth, and that is a misunderstanding of the science. You have 2 systems. So right now I'm standing up and I'm moving my arms and I'm speaking. So I'm actually doing 3 things, and my heart is pumping. So a lot of things are happening simultaneously. What you have to do, what you can do simultaneously, is you can do things that are habitual. You can do, and then you can only do one thing that is non-habitual. So if the conversation I'm engaged in, like I am engaged with you right now, requires conscious, deliberate thought, that's the one conscious, deliberate thing I can do. But if peeling carrots doesn't, I can talk to you and peel carrots at the same time, and it will not impact my ability to talk to you.
How about whenever we record a SANE show, we'll just like prep vegetables at the same time and like demonstrating. It's so funny. You know, I love that you brought that up, because I've talked with you before about how when I'm in the kitchen with my children, that's when they talk to me and that's when they open up. And I could logistically be in the kitchen from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and have someone in there rotating in and out with me the whole time talking. Now, I don't do that. We have, little breaks and we go do other things and that. But anytime I go in the kitchen, it's like a magnet for the family, because kids want to talk and they want to be with you. And I love that idea of having a list. Can you give me like a sneak peek into what's on your list? I mean, I have a general idea, but what kinds of things are you talking about? Like chopping what, preparing what? Like, what are you doing?
Let's be specific about breakfast. So for example, I will be cracking eggs and mixing them up. And this might sound a little bit silly, but like, let's think about 60 eggs in a container from Costco versus having eggs cracked and mixed up and in a container that you can just pour directly into a pan.
Yeah.
Like totally that makes a difference. So you can even so you want to take something from being in the package to being ready to do whatever you want to do with it. So if it's
Okay.
carrots, you would wash them and peel them. If they're eggs, you would crack them, mix them up, and put them in a container. If it
Brussels sprouts, I'd cut off the ends and chop those up.
Exactly. So you want to just get it
Okay.
as close. And if possible, if you need to cook something, you can actually just cook it while you're on the phone and then heat it up in
Like
the
sauteing vegetables maybe, or peeling hard-boiled eggs. I could
Exactly.
spend like an hour
Exactly.
peeling hard-boiled eggs. And the kids could actually help with that. I think you can add baking soda to the water or something like that. Do you know, to
Oh
make
yeah,
peeling? Is that what you do?
the trick to make hard-boiled eggs way easier is to add a lot of baking
A lot
soda
of baking
to the
soda.
water, and
Okay.
then when they're done boiling, you put them in ice water until
Okay.
they are completely cool, and then you
Okay.
peel them. So you go from very hot baking soda
Okay.
loaded water to ice water.
I knew there was some science behind that because that takes forever when we're like peeling the little eggs together. Like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with hard-boiled eggs. Okay, I love that. And it's just so funny. These little ideas are super helpful because I even had this thought the other day where I was super hungry and I went to the fridge and nothing was ready. And, for a second, I was like, oh, I could just eat. I don't know what I was going to eat. But then I thought, well, even though I'm super hungry, I'm just going to take an extra 10 minutes and just make something that's sane and eat that first. And then I'll see if that other thing still sounded good. And of course it didn't once I was done and I was full. And I'm like, all right, I don't even need that. But it's those little ideas because even if you think, oh, I've got an open day, it'll be fine. Chances are something's going to happen and something's going to be delayed or take you longer. And I love that with SANE, as long as I can just have some food on hand and be somewhat prepared, then I can eat and never have to be hungry and never have to resort to just eating junk food. So I love it.
And I long for the day, and maybe by the time I have grandchildren, this will be true. Like right now, if you tell someone, "Hey, I have an hour set aside on my calendar to exercise," they get it, and they're not going to be like, "What? That's crazy." Or if you're at work and your boss calls you into a meeting that's going to take an hour, you don't say no. Like somehow an hour materializes.
Yeah.
If we can start to get into a routine of, I have an hour that I'm going to spend on food preparation.
Hmm.
Like period. It's a ritual. I do it every
Yeah.
week. It happens on Saturday at this time, or it happens to Sunday at this time. I think just like people make time to exercise and make time for other things, if we can literally just make time for preparing food
Yeah.
as a ritual, as a routine, I promise you that every single person who has had long-term success with sane eating does that. So you say, like, what are the characteristics of long-term success? One
Yeah.
is you budget time consistently to pre-prep food. And if you
Hmm.
good news is with the sane lifestyle, you can trade 10 hours in the gym for just a little bit of time in the kitchen, and there's the time.
I love that. Okay, so I have like 3 or 4 brand new things I'm going to go implement into my life to be able to really save that time so that I can be more successful. And that really takes the stress out and it helps you not have to use that willpower. It's not like, oh, let me fight my way through today. So would that be a good next action? Does everyone think about what we talked about today? Identify maybe one way to save more time and plan in advance?
Absolutely. And maybe one stretch goal is to use that specifically in the context of breakfast, because I think
Mm,
that can be most challenging for people. So remove assumptions of it can only be breakfast food and ask yourself, what can I prepare for breakfast that's sane for me and for my family next week?
love it. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I feel like I just got some awesome training. I'm ready to apply this to my life. So good luck. Those of you who are here listening with us, have a wonderful day and remember to stay sane.